I came home earlier than planned. 6:12 p.m. I remember the time because I glanced at the dashboard clock before killing the engine. My flight out of Seattle had been delayed, then canceled, then rebooked. I didn't call her. I thought it would be a nice surprise. The key turned in the lock more quietly than usual. The house felt still, too still for that hour. Emily was standing at the kitchen counter with her back to me, cutting something on the butcher block. She didn't hear me come in. Her shoulders were slightly tense, like she was bracing against something. I stepped up behind her and leaned in to kiss her cheek. She flinched. Not subtle, not startled. A reflex. That's when I saw it, just below her ear. A dark mark, round at the edges. Not fresh, but not old either. She touched her neck immediately, covering it without thinking. "It's just the gym equipment," she said. No pause. No confusion. The answer was waiting. I nodded. I didn't ask which machine. I didn't ask how. In that moment, something shifted. No explosion. No shouting. Just a quiet awareness settling into place. Everything had already changed, even if neither of us said it out loud. I was flying routes between Seattle and Atlanta 3, sometimes 4 times a week. It sounds more glamorous than it is. Most of it was terminals, delays, recycled cabin air, and hotel rooms that all smelled the same. I worked operations for a regional logistics carrier, oversight, compliance, timing. My job was about schedules lining up and variables staying predictable. At home, we had a rhythm that looked steady from the outside. Shared checking account, joint savings, mortgage on autopay, Sunday dinners, usually at her sister's place in Naperville when I was in town. Emily meal prepped on Mondays, worked out 5 days a week, and kept a calendar on the fridge that looked color-coded and efficient. She used to say fitness made her feel in control. That was the word she liked. Control. I admired that about her. When we first married, she struggled with anxiety. Small things overwhelmed her: late bills, missed appointments, last-minute changes. The gym gave her structure. Measured reps, timed sets, visible progress. I respected discipline. It made sense to me. So when her workouts started running long, I didn't question it. When she upgraded her membership to include advanced personal sessions, I nodded. When she came home flushed and quiet, saying leg day wiped her out, I believed her. My schedule gave her space. Too much of it, maybe. My departures and arrivals created gaps in the week that nobody monitored except her. I'd leave Tuesday at dawn. Back Thursday night. Out again Saturday morning. She'd stand at the door with that half smile, kiss me once, and say, "Text when you land." And I always did. There were small shifts, but nothing dramatic enough to challenge. New dresses that weren't really her style, sleeker, tighter at the waist. She said the gym changed her body, and she wanted clothes that fit properly now. Late returns from mobility workshops. A few overnight trips to what she called fitness seminars in Milwaukee and St. Louis. I checked the event websites once or twice. They existed. That was enough. Credit card charges for boutique hotels. She said sometimes the seminars partnered with nicer venues. I told myself it was ambition. I told myself she was growing. The truth is, I was proud of her. She looked confident in a way she hadn't before. Leaner, straighter posture, a different energy in photos. What I didn't register, what I chose not to register, was how rarely that energy was directed at me. Our conversations narrowed. Logistics replaced intimacy. Flight on time. Yeah. You eat. Airport food. Gym good. Great. We functioned efficiently. No major arguments. No dramatic fights. If anything, it felt calm. But calm can be misleading. Looking back, I can see the pattern forming. Her heavier workouts aligned almost perfectly with my departures. The nights she stayed out late were rarely when I was home the next morning. She never forgot to kiss me goodbye. She just stopped leaning into it. At the time, I didn't label any of it as betrayal. I labeled it adulthood. Two busy people. Separate goals. Shared house. That's how it looked. Until 6:12 p.m. In the kitchen, when I saw a mark that didn't fit the pattern. And suddenly, every routine felt less like structure and more like cover. That night, I didn't argue. We ate dinner across from each other like we always did. Salmon, rice, a bottle of sparkling water between us. She kept her hair down, angled over the left side of her neck. Casual, but deliberate. I asked about her workout. She said it was intense. A new program cycle. More focus on upper body strength. I nodded and listened. At 9:17 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. Atlanta area code. I stepped into the hallway to take it. Is this Daniel Hayes? A woman asked. Her voice was steady, controlled in the way people sound when they've rehearsed what they're about to say. Yes. My name is Sarah. I'm married to Ryan Keller. Ryan Keller. I didn't recognize it immediately. He's a trainer at Elevate Fitness, she continued. That landed. I didn't respond. I let her fill the silence. I think your wife trains with him, she said. And I think you deserve to know what's been going on. There are moments in a man's life when time compresses. Every small detail from the past few months begins lining up in perfect sequence. Not emotionally. Logically. I leaned against the wall and looked toward the kitchen. Emily was rinsing plates, unaware. What do you think has been going on? I asked. Not think, Sarah corrected quietly. I know. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She listed dates. Hotel names. A seminar in Milwaukee that didn't exist. A mobility workshop that coincided with her husband's sudden out-of-town certification. She said she found messages. Photos. Calendar overlaps. I'm not calling to scream at you, she said. I just thought you should see what I saw. We ended the call without promises. No alliance. Just an exchange of information. I stood there for a full minute before going back into the kitchen. Emily looked up. Everything okay? Yeah, I said. Wrong number. That wasn't entirely untrue. After she went to bed, I opened my laptop at the dining room table. Elevate Fitness had a member portal. I had access to our shared email. Password reset took less than a minute. Session history. Trainer assignments. Timestamps. Ryan Keller. Recurring private sessions scheduled almost exclusively on days I was in the air. I didn't feel rage. I felt confirmation. I opened the home security app next. We had installed cameras the previous year after a string of car break-ins down the block. Front door. Driveway. Garage. I filtered by dates Sarah mentioned. There he was. Black SUV. Parked in the driveway on a Wednesday afternoon when I was scheduled in Atlanta. He walked to the front door like he'd been there before. Not hesitant. Not unsure. Emily opened it before he knocked. I watched the footage twice. No audio. Just body language. Familiar. Comfortable. They disappeared inside for 1 hour and 14 minutes. When he left, she walked him to the driveway. He touched the back of her neck. The same side as the mark. I closed the laptop carefully. No yelling. No confrontation. Just a clear shift inside me. What once felt random now looked intentional. And I understood something important in that quiet house. This wasn't a mistake. It was a pattern. I didn't sleep that night. Emily's breathing stayed, even beside me, slow and unbothered. At 2:13 a.m., she shifted and turned toward my side of the bed, resting her hand lightly against my shoulder like she'd done for years. Reflex. Habit. I stayed still. The difference between love and trust is subtle. Love can survive uncertainty. Trust cannot survive proof. By morning, something inside me had gone quiet. Not shattered. Not dramatic. Just quiet. If you've made it this far, this story clearly caught your attention. If you're enjoying it, drop a like on the video. It helps me see what kind of stories you want more of next. Let's keep going. I didn't wake her differently. I didn't move to the couch. I got up at 5:40 like usual, made coffee, and ironed my shirt for the 8:15 departure to Atlanta. She came downstairs 20 minutes later in leggings and an oversized sweatshirt, hair tied back high. You leaving on time? She asked, pouring herself coffee. Yeah. Text when you land. I will. She leaned in to kiss me. Same routine. Same angle of her head, careful of the left side of her neck. I let it happen. But the decision had already been made. I wasn't going to ask why. Why implies negotiation. Why opens a door to explanations, to tears, to apologies shaped like strategy. I didn't want explanations. I wanted clarity. And clarity requires distance. On the flight, I opened a blank document on my laptop and began listing facts. Dates from the security footage. Session times from the gym portal. Hotel charges from our joint credit card statements. No adjectives. No accusations. Just entries. March 12 to 1:07 p.m. SUV and driveway. March 19th, Mobility Seminar, Milwaukee. Hotel charge $684. April 3rd, private session added last minute, 10:30 a.m. Patterns become visible when you remove emotion. By the time we landed in Atlanta, I wasn't angry. I was focused. I called our bank from the rental car shuttle. Not to freeze accounts. Not yet. just to confirm balances and request detailed statements going back 6 months. I said it was for tax planning. That part was true. Over the next week, I maintained routine. Morning texts. Casual phone calls from hotel rooms. How was the gym? How's your sister? I listened more than I spoke. The more she talked, the clearer the contrast became. She wasn't reckless. She was organized. Careful about days I was gone. Conscious of camera angles in the driveway. She'd parked his SUV in the garage once, I noticed, after the first few visits. That adjustment told me everything. This wasn't a lapse. It was sustained. On Thursday evening, I returned home again without warning. This time, the driveway was empty. No black SUV, just her sedan. Inside, everything looked normal. Dinner half prepped. Music playing softly from her phone on the counter. She looked up when I walked in. You didn't tell me you were landing early. Got lucky, I said. There was a flicker. Small. Controlled. I watched her closely now, not as a husband looking for affection, but as a man observing behavior. She asked about my flight. I answered briefly. She resumed chopping vegetables. Trust hadn't exploded. It had turned off. And once that switch flips, the marriage is already over. The rest is logistics. Once I stopped looking for excuses, the pattern sharpened. It wasn't dramatic. It was arithmetic. My flight schedule for the last 4 months sat in a spreadsheet beside her gym bookings. I color-coded them out of habit. Blue for departures, green for returns, red for private sessions. Red almost never overlapped with green. Her travel days matched my longest routes. Tuesdays when I overnighted in Atlanta. Saturdays when I caught the early leg to Dallas before connecting east. The few times I switched shifts with a colleague, her schedule shifted too. That wasn't coincidence. That was coordination. I started noticing smaller things. How she shaved her legs on mornings when I left, not when I came home. How new lingerie arrived on Wednesdays, but never made it to our bedroom on Thursdays. How she washed the guest towels separately on days I'd been gone. The house had become a controlled environment. She reset it before my return. Sarah called again the following week. Not frantic. Measured. I have recordings, she said. From his car. I installed a device months ago when I suspected something. I didn't react to that. Everyone handles suspicion differently. Do you want them? She asked. Yes. We met in a grocery store parking lot outside Aurora. Public. Neutral. She handed me a flash drive through the open window of my truck. She looked exhausted but composed. No hostility toward me. Just a shared understanding. I'm filing next month, she said. I needed documentation. I nodded. Thank you. Back home, I listened alone in my office with the door locked. The audio wasn't graphic. It didn't need to be. Laughter. Her voice softer than it had been with me in months. Plans about once he figures things out. Discussions about my flight schedule, spoken like a calendar tool. He won't notice, she said in one recording. He's always in the air. That line didn't hurt. It clarified. I began collecting without comment. Bank statements downloaded and saved to an external drive. Copies of hotel confirmations forwarded to a private email account. Screenshots of gym schedule adjustments. Security footage backed up in 3 locations. I didn't confront her. I didn't withdraw affection. I maintained baseline normal. Because when someone believes they are unseen, they relax. And relaxed people make mistakes. 2 weeks later, a charge appeared from a boutique hotel in Chicago on a Sunday night. I had swapped flights and returned home quietly. She had told me she was at her sister's house. The timestamps on the charge placed her downtown. I didn't drive there. I didn't call. I simply added it to the file. What struck me most wasn't the betrayal itself. It was the structure around it. They weren't improvising. They were planning. Hotel bookings aligned with his business trips. Her seminars mirrored his certification weekends. The financial trail wasn't reckless. It was calculated, small increments spread across accounts, so nothing spiked. She underestimated one thing. Consistency. Consistency reveals everything over time. By the end of that month, I had a folder labeled April, June. Subfolders by week. Within them, statements, screenshots, audio clips, video stills. Not because I wanted revenge. Because I wanted certainty. Observation removes doubt. And once doubt is removed, decision becomes simple. I stopped wondering if there was a misunderstanding. There wasn't. There was only a timeline. And I now owned it. Next part. Remember that each part must contain SD. It stopped being just about my marriage the day Sarah forwarded me the email. Subject line, Formal notice of internal review, elevate fitness. The message wasn't dramatic. Corporate language rarely is. It referenced allegations of inappropriate conduct, misuse of facilities, and recording devices discovered on premises. That last phrase made me read it twice. I called her. They found files, she said. Her voice wasn't shaking, but it was thinner than usual. On a private server. Ryan's. I didn't interrupt. He was recording sessions, she continued. Not security footage. Personal encounters. Stored under client codes. For a moment, the situation widened beyond betrayal. This wasn't just an affair. This was documentation. Sarah had already retained an attorney. The gym's corporate office had initiated an audit. Clients were being notified quietly. Trainers suspended pending investigation. Your wife's name is in the client log, she said. But I don't know if he recorded her. I thanked her and ended the call. That evening, Emily came home later than usual. Her face looked controlled, but not calm. They're reviewing trainer conduct at the gym, she said casually while setting her bag down. Apparently someone complained. I watched her carefully. There was no direct lie yet, just selective framing. About what? I asked. Boundary stuff. Some trainer got too friendly with a client. I nodded once. Is that the guy you train with? She hesitated. Small. Then, I switched trainers last month. Another adjustment. I already knew that wasn't true. The portal still showed recurring bookings under Ryan Keller's name. 2 days later, a local business journal published a short piece online. Elevate Fitness had launched a formal investigation following allegations of misconduct by a senior trainer. Legal counsel engaged. Digital assets seized. The article mentioned potential civil exposure if recordings existed without client consent. I printed it and added it to my folder. Then I scheduled a consultation of my own. Not with a divorce attorney yet. With a financial advisor. If litigation expanded, assets could freeze. If the gym faced lawsuits, subpoenas could extend to clients. I needed to understand risk exposure. Our shared accounts. Her independent credit lines. Liability if her name appeared in any complaint. This was no longer emotional. It was structural. Within a week, the gym's social media accounts went silent. Trainers' bios disappeared from the website. Members speculated online. Emily's workouts became irregular. She stopped mentioning the gym entirely. One night, I heard her on the phone in the laundry room, voice low. I didn't know he was doing that, she said. You promised me. Silence while she listened. No, I can't be part of this. The sentence confirmed more than she realized. The affair had extended into something messy, something uncontrolled. When lies begin to unravel, they rarely collapse quietly. Lawyers were now involved. Corporate insurance carriers. Possibly law enforcement. I didn't need to push anything. The situation was accelerating on its own. What began in my kitchen at 6:12 p.m. had moved into boardrooms and legal offices. Reputation. Liability. Public record. Emily thought the risk was emotional exposure. She hadn't calculated professional fallout. And I understood something clearly in that moment. Her secret wasn't just damaging our marriage. It was becoming a business problem. And business problems don't stay hidden for long. She was served in the parking lot. I didn't arrange theatrics. That was timing. Her name was called as she stepped out of her car, gym bag over her shoulder. A process server handed her the envelope in front of 2 other members walking toward the entrance. No shouting. No scene. Just paperwork. At 3:42 p.m., my phone rang. She didn't start with hello. What did you do? She asked, breath uneven. I filed, I said. For divorce? The word sounded foreign in her mouth, like it didn't belong to her. Yes. There was a long pause. I could hear traffic behind her. A car door closing somewhere nearby. You didn't even talk to me, she said. You just blindsided me. I let that sit. We've been talking for months. I replied evenly. You just didn't notice. Silence again. Thicker this time. You don't understand everything that's happening, she rushed. The gym, Ryan, the investigation, he manipulated things. He lied. I was caught up in something that wasn't what I thought. I leaned back in the office chair and looked at the folder on my desk. Tabs. Dates. Statements. I understand enough, I said. You could have come to me, she pressed. We could have fixed this. Marriage counseling. We've been through hard things before. This was the pivot point she'd practiced in her head. Remorse framed as partnership. I didn't file because of the investigation, I said quietly. I filed because of the pattern. What pattern? The one that started long before the lawyers. She exhaled sharply. You're punishing me. No, I said. I'm separating from you. Her voice shifted then, faster, more defensive. He told me you wouldn't notice. That you were always gone. That you lived in airports. He made it seem like I was invisible in my own marriage. There it was. Blame redistributed. I was flying to pay the mortgage, I said. You were scheduling around it. She didn't answer. I made mistakes, she said finally. I ended it. You ended it after the gym launched an investigation, I replied. That's not fair. I'm not trying to be fair, I said calmly. I'm trying to be clear. Her breathing steadied slightly. The panic was settling into calculation. So what happens now? She asked. Our attorneys handle the rest. And that's it. Her voice cracked on the last word. I thought about 6:12 p.m. The flinch. The mark. Yes, I said. You're really walking away. Yes. Another pause. This one longer. I never meant for it to go this far, she whispered. Gym equipment doesn't leave marks like that, I said. Nothing more. She didn't respond. I ended the call. The conversation didn't feel victorious. It didn't feel dramatic. It felt administrative. The marriage had ended weeks earlier in a quiet kitchen. This was just the formal notice. When I closed my laptop that afternoon, I didn't feel anger. I felt alignment. What I knew internally now matched what existed on paper. And for the first time in months, there was no ambiguity left between us. After she was served, things moved without me having to push them. Her attorney reached out within 48 hours. Professional. Direct. Request for temporary financial disclosures. Proposed asset freeze. Inquiry into shared accounts. Standard procedure. I had already separated most of the liquidity 2 weeks prior, legally. Funds moved into an individual account under advice of counsel, documented and disclosed. Nothing hidden. Nothing reckless. Precision matters. Emily moved into a short-term rental near Oak Park the following week. She said she needed space from the noise. I didn't argue. The house felt different without her, but not emptier. Quieter. Clearer. The gym's investigation escalated publicly. Local outlets picked up the story. A former client filed a civil complaint alleging unauthorized recording. Elevate Fitness suspended operations pending review. Ryan Keller's name began appearing in filings. Emily called once during that period. Not emotional. Controlled. They're dragging everyone through this, she said. Even clients who had nothing to do with recordings. Did you? I asked. No. It wasn't defensive. It was flat. I believed that part. But belief didn't restore trust. Court hearings were procedural. Asset division outlined. Retirement accounts evaluated. Property appraisal scheduled. We had no children, which simplified things. The house was purchased jointly. Equity divided accordingly. No screaming across tables. No dramatic accusations. Just signatures. In late October, the gym formally announced closure. Pending litigation. Brand damage. Insurance exposure. Trainers terminated. Ryan's social media accounts went dark. 2 months later, I heard through Sarah that he and Emily had stopped seeing each other. She didn't elaborate. She didn't need to. Affairs thrive in secrecy and intensity. They rarely survive sunlight and legal scrutiny. I didn't contact Emily about it. There was nothing left to discuss. By December, mediation finalized division terms. She kept her personal savings and vehicle. I kept the house and assumed the mortgage. Retirement assets split evenly per state guidelines. It wasn't punitive. It was measured. Friends asked quietly if I felt vindicated. I didn't. Vindication implies competition. This was closure. I didn't expose her publicly. I didn't forward recordings or statements to mutual friends. I let the legal system and the gym's own failures handle the external consequences. Facts speak more cleanly than anger. The last time I saw her in person was in a conference room at her attorney's office. She looked thinner, tired, not broken, just recalibrated. We reviewed final documents side by side. No hostility, no small talk. When it was time to sign, she paused. I didn't think you'd actually go through with it, she said quietly. I did, I replied. She nodded once. No tears, no apology, just acknowledgement. Outside, the parking lot was nearly empty. Winter air sharp against my face. Events had unfolded without theatrics. Court dates, financial transfers, corporate collapse, relationship ending. I hadn't chased revenge. I hadn't tried to control outcomes. I documented. I decided. I stepped aside. The rest moved on its own. And that's the thing about structure. When it's compromised, it doesn't need force to fall. It just needs time. The divorce finalized on a gray Tuesday morning in February. No courtroom drama. No witnesses. Just paperwork processed and a judge's signature entered into record. I didn't take the day off work. I had a midday flight from Chicago to Atlanta and a turnaround back north. Routine felt important. That afternoon, between legs, I received the confirmation email from my attorney. Dissolution granted. 2 words. I closed the message and returned to reviewing cargo manifests and departure times. There was something steadying about it. Planes taking off when scheduled, crews checking procedures, numbers aligning. When I got home that night, the house felt neutral. Not haunted. Not nostalgic. Just quiet. Her framed photos were gone. Closet space emptied on one side. The guest towels folded differently because I'd folded them. I walked through each room once, not to reminisce, but to inventory. Structure intact. Utilities paid. Mortgage under my name alone. No outstanding joint debt. It wasn't triumph. It was order. A month later, I closed on a condo overlooking Lake Michigan. Smaller footprint. Less maintenance. Floor-to-ceiling windows facing east. I kept only what I needed: tools, books, a few pieces of furniture that held function but not memory. The first night there, I stood at the window watching the water move under winter light. Ice along the shoreline. Wind carving small patterns across the surface. I slept without waking at 2 a.m. for the first time in months. Not because I felt healed, because I felt settled. Emily sent one final email in early March. No legal matters. Just a brief note. I hope you're doing well, she wrote. I'm sorry for how things ended. I read it once and didn't reply. Not out of cruelty. Out of completion. Closure doesn't require response. Sarah texted weeks later to let me know her case against the gym had reached settlement. She sounded lighter. We never met again. Life contracted into something simpler. Flights. Work. Quiet evenings. Running along the lake instead of tracking someone else's schedule. My calendar became my own again. Occasionally, a mutual friend would update me. Emily moved cities. Took a marketing role outside Chicago. Keeping a low profile. I didn't seek details. The chapter was closed. What surprised me most wasn't the absence of anger. It was the absence of noise. For months, my mind had been processing patterns, verifying data, anticipating outcomes. When that stopped, there was space. Space can feel unsettling at first. Then it feels like stability. I didn't prove anything publicly. I didn't expose anyone on social media. I didn't tell extended family the full story. When people asked what happened, I said, it ran its course. And that was enough. Peace isn't loud. It's measured breathing in a quiet room. It's waking up without checking security footage. It's knowing that the only schedule you need to track is your own. In the end, I didn't feel victorious. I felt aligned. And alignment is stronger than revenge. Sometimes I think back to that evening in the kitchen. 6:12 p.m. The way the key turned softly. The way she flinched before I even saw the mark. It's just the gym equipment. That sentence did more than confirm suspicion. It gave me silence. If I had argued that night, demanded explanations, forced emotion into the room, I might have missed the pattern. Anger clouds structure. Silence sharpens it. I stayed quiet, and that quiet let me see everything. I'm still flying. Still moving between cities, still watching schedules line up the way they're supposed to. The difference now is internal. I don't ignore small signals anymore. I don't explain away discomfort. When something feels misaligned, I don't panic. I observe. Life goes on. Calmly. Precisely. And when I lock my door at night, there's no doubt waiting on the other side of it. That's the end of this story. If you made it all the way here, consider subscribing to stay with us. I've placed a couple of recommended videos on screen for you. Pick one and keep watching. I'll see you in the next story.